Thank you, Newt. Tim McNamara. Do you share my optimism that, in fact, the American people are far ahead of the Washington intelligentsia? I just spent about 3 weeks down in Florida with a whole bunch of Democratic retirees who were state employees from Massachusetts, and I find they do understand this, and they are concerned that Bush is not hard enough on terrorism, not spending enough money, and McCain is too soft. Yeah. That's where I think America is.
Yeah, I think America is potentially somewhere between 65 and 75% in favor of doing whatever it takes. I think that the natural utopian isolationist base in this country is somewhere between 25 and 30%, maybe 34%. And you could govern forever with a deranged minority at 34%. What makes it difficult is both performance failure in places like Baghdad, where you get up every day and there are bombings, and people sort of have the sense that's not good, okay? Or you're looking at Afghanistan, where there's a resurgence of the Taliban, and people have a sense it's not. So there's a performance problem. And second, there's an internal problem in the administration. If the war on terror is real, why aren't we controlling the border? If Iran is genuinely our enemy in danger of getting nuclear weapons, why are we trying to understand them? I mean, the country gets confused when the administration drags the president back to a policy of appeasement and dialogue, and when the bureaucracies just remain incompetent and nobody gets fired. And I think in that sense that Katrina was a huge blow, because there was this Washington belief things were working, and anybody watching television just knew this was hopeless. And there was no sense of anger, no sense of clean out the place, no sense of fix it. And I think that's why people, but I agree with you. I am absolutely confident, like Franklin Delano Roosevelt and like Ronald Reagan, I am absolutely confident that over time, the American people will conclude these are our enemies, they are dangerous, and we have to beat them. And I want to close this one line because it illustrates the heart of the American people. And by the way, this was always Churchill's belief all through the 30s. That, in fact, in one of his greatest speeches, he said, when in God's good time, the new world will come to save the old. This is when we were still in a semi-isolationist phase. This is my closing thought for all of you. There was huge opposition on the left to winning the Cold War. There was enormous desire to find some way to let the Soviet Union survive. There was a constant effort at appeasement. If you look at the Congress elected in 74, it was a disaster. It actually instructed the executive branch to negotiate with the Khmer Rouge. I mean, nobody's ever gone back because it's so inappropriate on the left. Nobody's looked at how much damage the anti-Vietnam left did, both in forcing us to lose the war at home and then in what they did for the 6 years when they had power up through the Jimmy Carter presidency, which nobody has described with accuracy in terms of how bad it is, although Mark Bowden starts down that road in his new book, Guess the Ayatollah. So we were at a point by 1980 when a French intellectual was writing a book about the death of democracy, when we were clearly in retreat, when the Soviets, and we now know from their own internal documents, thought the correlation of forces was shifting their way. They were on offense in Afghanistan, Mozambique, Angola, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and they were paying, we now know, left-wing peaceniks all across Europe to organize peace rallies and to basically be Soviet agents. We now know this is true because we got the records. In that setting, Ronald Reagan comes along with a very simple-minded model. And Steve Hayward has captured a lot of this in his books. It says Peter Schweitzer. Things people on the left don't want to deal with. Reagan is running. Everybody in the elite knows you have to have détente. The Soviet Union is a fact. And hardline right-wing détente is be mad at them while they win. Soft liberal détente is kiss them while they win. But everybody knows the Soviet Union's a fact. A reporter says to Reagan, what's your vision of the Cold War? He says 4 words that change history. We win, they lose. So I want to close with this simple message to Mr. Ahmadinejad. At some point in the foreseeable future, the full power of the American people and the full power of the democratic allies across the planet will ensure that the Iranian people have a democracy, that the North Korean people have a democracy, and that the forces of fascism have once again, for the 3rd time in a century, been defeated. Thank you very, very much.